Welcome to Brain Vision.
In this example, we are working with the market for alcohol in order to discuss its negative externalities that it has. And what we know of alcohol is that drinking and driving is a negative externality of it, because people who choose to drink and drive pose a threat to those drivers on the road who are not drinking and driving. We want to be able to depict that on a supply and demand curve. So let's start by marking just our basic supply and demand curves for the market for alcohol. We know that supply is going to be upward sloping, and we know that demand is always going to be downward sloping. So we can give ourselves this general view right here. But now, taking into account that negative externality, this cost to society, what we see is that our supply curve shifts leftward to give us this social cost curve. Now, in this case, our demand curve down here, not only is this just our demand curve, but it's also our social value curve. And from this, what we can see is that we have two different equilibriums that exist. Now, the one that our demand and supply curves form, that intersection right here, this is really just going to be our market quantity. So just our basic equilibrium that occurs as the market adjusts. So we'll call that QMKT. And then what we have is this second equilibrium up here. And this is occurring as a result of this social cost, right? This is where our demand curve intersects with that social cost curve. So we're going to call this QS for social cost. Now, what we see here is the difference in quantities among this market for alcohol as a result of that social cost, as a result of that negative externality, which also allows us to identify this deadweight loss. And the deadweight loss occurs for the units of alcohol that are consumed when social cost is greater than social value. So what we can see here is that if our market quantity, if we were to increase that, what we see is that some people are going to be consuming within this triangle right here. And this triangle is actually our deadweight loss. And that's because these are the quantities of alcohol that are going to be consumed irregardless of the fact that social cost outweighs social value. And we know that we normally would not want that to occur. We don't want society to suffer as a result of any amount of consumption. So ideally, we want people to be consuming only at the point where social value is greater than or equal to social cost, so that they balance each other out. However, this deadweight loss right here is occurring, like I said, at that point where our social cost curve is greater than that social value curve at that quantity that would be consumed.